it is crazy to think that it's already Friday. For some reason, to me, it feels like Wednesday, but no, it is actually Friday.
TGIF.
And I'm Tim.
I'm Gina. And this is our Friday conversation to connect with you all.
Well, last week we appreciated the emails we got back, the texts we got. We just appreciate you interacting with this, because what we want to do with this is to develop that relationship. Yes, I know it's through a camera, but we are praying that we can develop this into a good conversation about how God is at work. And so one of the things that popped up in our questions is they were so surprised when I said that I went to the movie theater across the street, that I grew up in Modesto.
Crazy, and I didn't even know you in Modesto.
You didn't. And one of the things that you heard a question on
was, how did we come to
meet?
Meet.
We didn't meet in Modesto. So if you're wondering, pay attention. So just unpacking some of our story here is what we really want to do for you all. And so for me, I was born in Rapid City, South Dakota. I was not actually born in Modesto, but I was born in Rapid City, South Dakota. But if you know anything about South Dakota, the snow is deep and the winters are very, very cold. And so my parents were told by my grandparents, go someplace that's nicer weather. And so they took off and headed to Modesto, California, because they had a friend that had already moved here. One of the things that in my walk and understanding, as I reflect back on how God has brought me along, I had a grandmother that played piano in the Methodist Church in Wall, South Dakota. And one of the things that she was so passionate about was that I would be baptized. And so as an infant, I was baptized there in Wall, South Dakota. But again, I have one picture of a baptism, and the connection for me was really, really hard. And so as we got to Modesto, California, my parents settled into jobs. My dad being a truck driver on the road quite a little bit. My mom worked at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and so there was the interaction of, when it comes to the weekend, what are we going to do? And guess what was not high on the priority list? Church. Church was not high on the priority list. So sometimes people ask me, were you born to be a pastor? I said, well, God knew I would be a pastor, but I did not know that I was born to do this and be a part of this unpacking of God's story in my story. And so one of the things that I remember my grandmother calling my mom, did you go to church on Sunday? Did you go to church on Sunday? And my mom finally felt that pressure. And so we actually started at First Church downtown in Modesto and went there for a few times. But one of the things my mom noticed was the drive, and trying to get a little kid ready for church is not a holy moment. And so she did find that opportunity to come and connect with Centenary. But again, we were that family that showed up on Christmas and Easter. We weren't there every Sunday. We were not what I would call a part of the family. And so one of the things that I've had to understand in my walk is understanding what it means to be a part of the family of the body of Christ. My story then is, going to school, going off to college, and not really participating in the life of the church and how the church could help me develop and could disciple me and grow me. So it really wasn't until, in that after college time, I had a job that I was out traveling the highways. And so I would show up at a hotel, and guess what is in the side drawer at every hotel up and down I-5?
A Bible.
A Bible supplied by those great people, the Gideons. And so I found myself just opening that up every now and then and starting to read. And I thought, well, hey, my name's Timothy, so maybe I should do a little reading in Timothy and understand Timothy. And really that was kind of the launching for me of how important Scripture is in the discipleship process. Again, that's more of the story than Gina and I meeting. And so I'm going to let her kick off in that, getting her story in here, and then we'll tie the two together.
Well, my story is quite a bit different. I actually attended parochial school, 1st grade through 8th grade, and I wanted to attend parochial school. I remember begging my parents to attend parochial school, mainly because it was in my backyard. I could come home for lunch. My cousin attended school there, and I would eventually go there and meet some of my best friends. But I was from a God-loving home, a great home, a home of value and morals, but we did not attend church. And so I like to recognize that my learning about Jesus and actually attending church more than anything, because I feared the nuns if I did not go to church on Sunday, because we did have to report on Monday, I attribute that back to school. And I remember in the 2nd grade when it was time to take First Communion, all of my friends who had been baptized Catholic and they were taking First Communion, and I wasn't able to take First Communion because I was not baptized. And I remember begging my parents to let me be baptized Catholic, and they said, you're too young to choose a religion, we're not Catholic, and it's just, you just need to wait till you're older. And that was really hard for me. And I think that's when God got a hold of me and started to reassure me that he was with me, even though I was not baptized and was not receiving that First Communion. So for me, 2nd grade was the game changer. And I didn't know that. That's hindsight. That's looking back and connecting all the dots in our story. But in the 2nd grade, I remember at night praying, not only because I feared the nuns that I had to tell them that I prayed, but I remember wanting to pray. And I even remember laying in bed at night and putting my hands together, and I would begin to pray, and then I felt like if I don't get on my knees, like God's gonna really be mad at me. I would go to my knees and pray at the side of the bed, like that perfect little picture. And this was something I was kind of walking and doing on my own. As I got older, of course, I didn't continue to attend church all the time in high school and college, but when I did go, I would find myself going to a mass because it's kind of the religion that I knew, but then I love to church hop and go with friends. So that's kind of how Jesus entered my life. So to say when I gave my life to Christ, it was in those young years of those early years of attending parochial school. So I am grateful for that experience because I was able to start developing my faith. And then when we met and actually officially started dating, so mind you, we weren't regular churchgoers at that point.
And we were having plenty of challenges in life as well, trying to find that job, trying to figure out what you do after college. And so, we were not the perfect people to become what God can use, but ultimately we were the perfect people that God could use because of some of our brokenness and trying to understand that. But coming together as a couple, it's like the first question that we really felt was valuable was, okay, where are we going from here and how is God a part of it? And I think that was a big part of connecting with the Methodist Church in Fresno, St. Luke's United Methodist Church.
Yes, that is where we had lived because I was just finishing Fresno State, and we attended St. Luke's United Methodist Church, and that would be where we started getting involved in teaching Sunday school, and that's actually where I was baptized at 23 years old. So kind of like my parents said, you're just a little young to make this decision, and that's how that it was best, and that 23 years old baptized, and then we were also married in the church. Tell them, how did we end up back in Firebaugh? Because if you remember from last week, I was raised in Firebaugh, California, and that is where we ended up back at the Firebaugh Mendota United Methodist Church. Because I was teaching there, we chose to move there. What was our experience there?
Yeah, and so one of the things that we found is that all of a sudden now we have kids, and it's like, okay, how are we going to develop our kids? And we knew we wanted them in the life of the church. And so the natural progression is start teaching just a couple grades above your kids. I recommend just stay a little bit ahead of them. That's all you got to do sometimes. You don't have to do this perfectly, but if you can stay just a little ahead of them as they are growing into their own understanding of Christ. And so I would volunteer for, those lifetime commitments on SPRC, on trustees, on ad council, as well as, Gina being an integral part of Christian education there. And so our Pastor Tom Abrahamson, he would be saying, you gotta go to Redwood Christian Family Camp. You just gotta go. And we would say, what?
We only have a little vacation, and that's really expensive. So the first couple times we were encouraged to go, we kind of said no because we were just really connected to our jobs and just did not want to make the commitment.
And we were a little scared.
Yes.
What do those crazy Christians do when they go off to family camp?
Are we a good enough Christian to be there?
That's true.
And
too.
that year that we went in 2001 was the first time that we attended. That would begin to do something in our life. And that was change the direction of our life. And what we would love to connect with you all is Redwood Christian Park for us was a change of direction. Not that it was making us better people, better Christians, but it would change the direction of what God wanted us to focus on in our life.
I mean, you really stepped us into the conversation. What we did not understand is that you can have this intimate relationship in this ongoing conversation, and guess what? You don't actually have to be in the church building. And so I think that was the biggest growing part for us.
And we're excited. Next week, we're going to tell you about our first RCP, Redwood Christian Camp experience, and kind of what that led into. But we have a question for you, and we would love for you all to connect. And whether you send an email, whether you send a private message through the Facebook group, we would love to get to know you and a little bit about your story. So Redwood Christian Park was that change of direction for us in our life, but I'm sure you have a place or a time or a space where you felt God got a hold of you to change your direction. So
I love that. I mean, that's the way we can interact with this, because we want to get to know your stories as well. So we do encourage you, because it will also help us as we look at next week's TGIF.
That's right, because it will be Friday again next week. But do send that in. Let us get to know you a little bit more that way. And just hearing your old stories of where God really has been at work in your life is really going to help us and fuel us as we continue on in this ongoing conversation that really has no script. Questions you send in and thoughts you have is going to kind of be the direction of this. So anything is a go. So we do ask that you do engage with us and converse with us, friends.
So we look forward to next week.
We will be back on TGIF. Bye.
Bye.